Why do some doctors earning six figures live paycheck to paycheck, while a school janitor quietly retires a millionaire? It's not intelligence, it's not opportunity, and it's definitely not just math. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Money is more psychological than financial. Most people believe building wealth is about spreadsheets, investment strategies, or finding the next big opportunity. But if that were true, everyone who understands basic math would be rich. Instead, we see brilliant people drowning in debt, lottery winners going broke, and ordinary earners building life-changing wealth. So what's really going on? Why do we panic when markets crash, even when we know we should stay calm? Why do we buy things we don't need to impress people we don't even like? Why do we promise to save money next month, but somehow never do? Because every financial decision you make is driven by emotion first, logic second. Your brain didn't evolve to build investment portfolios. It evolved to survive. And survival brains hate uncertainty. They fear loss more than they value gain. They chase short-term comfort over long-term reward. And they constantly look for social approval. That's why money feels stressful. That's why investing feels scary. That's why discipline feels uncomfortable. We like to think we're rational with money. But studies in behavioral finance show that humans are predictably irrational. We sell when we're scared. We buy when we're excited. We overspend when we're insecure. And we delay saving because the future feels far away. We don't lose financially because we lack information. We lose because we lack emotional control. Wealth isn't built by the smartest person in the room. It's built by the person who can control their impulses the longest. In the next few minutes, you're going to understand the hidden psychological forces that secretly control your spending, saving, and investing decisions. You'll see why some people stay stuck no matter how much they earn, and why others quietly build financial freedom without earning extraordinary incomes. Once you understand this, you'll never look at money the same way again. Ready to see what's really controlling your financial life? In 2008, when the stock market crashed, millions of people did the exact same thing at the exact same time. They sold. Not because it was logical, not because it was strategic, but because they were afraid. Fear is one of the strongest financial forces in the world. When prices drop, your brain doesn't calmly analyze long-term probabilities. It reacts as if you're being chased by a predator. Your heart rate increases, stress hormones rise, and your only instinct is to escape the danger. So, you sell. But here's the twist. The market historically recovers, and the people who stay invested usually win. The ones who panic often lock in losses permanently. This is called loss aversion, the psychological tendency to feel losses more intensely than gains. Losing $100 hurts far more than gaining $100 feels good. So we make decisions not to win, but to avoid pain. And it doesn't stop with investing. Think about impulse spending. You've had this moment before. You're stressed, tired, maybe bored. You open your phone, a sale pops up, limited time. Only two left. Suddenly buying feels urgent, important, necessary, but what you're really buying isn't the product. You're buying relief. Your brain releases dopamine, the chemical linked to pleasure and reward. For a brief moment, you feel in control, excited, elevated. Then the feeling fades, and your bank balance quietly shrinks. Short-term emotion, long-term consequence. The same pattern plays out everywhere. Greed makes people chase hype. Fear makes them abandon strategy. Excitement fuels bubbles. Panic causes crashes. Money moves in cycles because human emotions move in cycles. The uncomfortable truth is this. Financial success depends less on what you know and more on how you behave when emotions spike. Anyone can make a plan when they feel calm. Very few people stick to it when they feel pressure. The real advantage in money isn't higher intelligence. It's emotional discipline. When you learn to pause instead of react, to think instead of panic, to wait instead of chase, you step into a category most people never reach. And that's where wealth quietly begins. Your financial life didn't start when you got your first paycheck. It started when you were a child. Before you understood investing, budgeting, or credit cards, you were already forming beliefs about money. You watched how your parents reacted to bills. You heard conversations about debt, success, rich people, and struggle. And without realizing it, you absorbed it all. If money caused stress in your home, you may associate wealth with anxiety. If you heard, "We can't afford that" constantly, scarcity may feel normal. If rich people were described as greedy or corrupt, you might subconsciously resist becoming wealthy yourself. These are called money scripts, unconscious beliefs that shape financial behavior. And here's the powerful part. Most people never question them. Someone who grows up around scarcity often develops one of two extremes. They either overspend the moment they earn money because they finally feel free, or they hoard money obsessively, afraid it will disappear. Different behaviors, same root emotion, scarcity. On the other hand, someone raised in an environment where money was discussed calmly and strategically often sees it as a tool, not something emotional, not something dramatic, just something to manage. Your income doesn't just reflect your skills, it reflects your identity. If deep down you believe I'm bad with money, you'll unconsciously prove it true. You'll avoid learning about investing. You'll delay planning. You'll sabotage progress the moment it feels unfamiliar. But if you begin to see yourself as someone who is disciplined, patient, and capable of learning, your actions slowly start to align with that identity. This is why two people can earn the same salary and build completely different futures. One sees money as temporary and fragile. The other sees it as something that can grow. Beliefs create behaviors. Behaviors create results. And until you become aware of the invisible script running in your mind, you'll keep replaying the same financial patterns over and over again. The moment you question your money story, you take back control. Because wealth doesn't just grow in bank accounts. It grows in identities. Here's something that surprises most people. The average millionaire is not a genius. In fact, many large studies show that most self-made millionaires are ordinary in intelligence, but extraordinary in consistency. We love the idea that wealth comes from brilliance. A revolutionary idea, perfect timing, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But in reality, wealth is usually built through boring behavior repeated for a very long time. Think about compounding. If you invest consistently and earn average returns, your money doesn't just grow, it accelerates. At first, the progress feels invisible, small, almost disappointing. But over time, growth builds on growth and the curve starts to rise sharply. The challenge isn't understanding compounding. The challenge is sticking around long enough to experience it. Most people interrupt their own progress. They stop investing when markets fall. They withdraw savings when tempted. They chase trends instead of staying consistent, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack patience. Patience is financially rare. We live in a world built on speed. Fast food, fast shipping, instant streaming. Social media validation in seconds. Waiting feels unnatural, but wealth operates on a completely different timeline. Long-term thinking is a competitive advantage. While others obsess over this month's returns, disciplined investors focus on decades. While others upgrade lifestyles with every raise, disciplined earners increase investments instead. It's not flashy, it's not dramatic, but it works. There's also something powerful about identity here. When you see yourself as someone who makes steady, rational decisions, you stop searching for shortcuts. You stop gambling on hype. You start valuing stability over excitement. And stability compounds. The truth is simple. Intelligence can help you make money, but behavior determines whether you keep it. You don't need a higher IQ to build wealth. You need a longer time horizon. You need emotional control. And you need the discipline to repeat simple actions consistently. Because in the end, wealth isn't built by the most talented person in the room. It's built by the person who refuses to quit. Most people don't actually want to be rich. They want to look rich. There's a difference. Looking rich is immediate. It's visible. It earns attention. A new car, designer clothes, the latest phone, a luxury vacation posted online. These signals tell the world, I'm successful. But real wealth is quiet. It doesn't always show up in photos. It doesn't get instant validation. In fact, it often looks boring from the outside. Driving a reliable car, living below your means, investing instead of upgrading. The problem is social comparison. Humans are wired to measure themselves against others. Thousands of years ago, status meant survival. Today, status often means spending. When your friend upgrades apartments, you feel pressure. When coworkers talk about bonuses, you feel behind. When social media floods you with highlight reels, your normal life feels small, so you spend to close the gap. Not because you need the upgrade, but because you need the reassurance. This is lifestyle inflation. As income rises, expenses quietly rise with it. Promotions turn into bigger leases. Raises turn into bigger car payments. And somehow, no matter how much you earn, the feeling of not enough stays the same. Here's the irony. The people who look wealthy are often heavily financed. Loans, credit cards, payments. Meanwhile, truly wealthy individuals often appear average. Their money isn't parked in driveways. It's invested in assets, businesses, index funds, real estate, things that produce more money. Visible wealth impresses strangers. Invisible wealth builds freedom. Delayed gratification is the dividing line. choosing not to upgrade when you can, choosing to invest when it feels less exciting, choosing long-term security over short-term applause. That choice isn't about income, it's about ego. When you stop trying to signal success and start trying to build it, your financial life changes direction completely. Because staying broke isn't usually about low earnings. It's about high consumption driven by comparison. The moment you stop performing wealth and start building it, you step off the treadmill. And that's when real progress begins. Now you can see it clearly. Money was never just numbers on a screen. It was fear during uncertainty, ego during comparison, impatience during slow growth, and identity shaped long before you earned your first dollar. The doctors who go broke and the janitors who retire wealthy aren't separated by intelligence. They're separated by behavior, by emotional control, by patience, by the ability to ignore noise. So how do you rewire your money psychology? First, awareness. Start noticing your emotional triggers. When markets fall, do you panic? When friends upgrade, do you feel behind? When you're stressed, do you spend? Awareness creates distance between impulse and action. Second, control the reaction. You can't stop emotions from appearing, but you can pause before responding. Create simple rules, automatic investments, spending limits, long-term plans written down clearly. Systems protect you from emotional decisions. Third, extend your time horizon. Most financial mistakes happen because people think in months. Wealth is built by thinking in decades. When your timeline expands, short-term noise loses power. Temporary drops feel smaller. Delayed rewards feel worth it. Remember the questions from the beginning. Why do smart people stay broke? Because intelligence without discipline collapses under emotion. Why do we sabotage ourselves financially? Because we follow unconscious scripts instead of questioning them. Why is money more behavioral than mathematical? Because numbers don't panic. People do. The good news is this: behavior can change. You don't need a higher income to begin. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need brilliance. You need consistency. You need self-awareness. And you need the courage to choose long-term freedom over short-term validation. Wealth isn't about impressing others. It's about building options, security, control over your time. And that starts in your mind. Master your emotions, and you master your money. If this changed the way you see wealth, subscribe to the channel and like the video so you don't miss the next breakdown.